"You don't belong here," she growled, eyes narrowing. Like I sneaked a skunk past the boardroom. It was 7:43 a.m. I had my suitcase in one hand, the other gripping a cold coffee jet lag, smashing me like a freight train. Last thing on my mind, a woman sporting a headset clipboard and all the authority of a meter made on a power trip, stopping the corporate entrance like a final boss. I hadn't even set foot in my own building yet. Sharon, as her name tag announced, stood in front of the security gate like she was the owner. "I need to see some ID," she growled. "Here's the thing. This wasn't some ordinary workplace. This was the headquarters of an 8-figure tech conglomerate where I sign off on hires and fires, and even the fancy espresso machine on the 5th floor. But Sharon had no idea, not yet. Instead of correcting her, I drank my old airport coffee and grumbled, "Let's see how far she takes this." After a 15-hour flight, I just wanted to take a shower in the executive suite and to check emails, perhaps surprise the data team. I didn't anticipate to be assaulted by someone acting like the front desk is a border crossing. "Are you a delivery driver?" she asked, glancing at my plain hoodie like it was a costume. "No," I said, suppressing a smile. "I work here." "That was incorrect. Answer." Sharon's lips pursed like I'd offended her. "Doc, you work here." She parroted, dripping with suspicion, air quoting theatrically, doing what exactly I arched an eyebrow. "Operations, technically true operations, doesn't enter through the executive entrance," she said with eye roll like she'd studied every org chart. She folded arms and dropped the line that sealed her doom. "You're not authorized. Leave before I call Mr. Carter." Mr. Carter works directly for me. At that moment, I knew Sharon was not merely a minor irritation. She was going to be the star of the most unintentionally hilarious HR complaint this building ever witnessed. I didn't protest. I backed away and said, "Go ahead." She called security on the radio as if I was a national threat issuing commands, while I stood with my back to the wall, observing employees filtering in. Some shot me inquisitive looks. Others were too afraid to get involved. Sharon scanned badges with robotic accuracy. A mall cop with a grudge. One intern attempted to wave at me but got snapped at. "Don't distract the front desk process," and ran to the elevator like he'd committed a crime. It was strangely amusing. This woman, this clipboard dictator, didn't know the guy she was trying to kick out had just come back from signing a multi-million-dollar expansion deal for the company she was keeping out. My phone vibrated an automatic message. "Welcome back," I smiled. Sharon stormed over. "Mr. Carter will be down in 5 minutes. Until then, you're not allowed past this checkpoint." I nodded respectfully. "Mind if I wait?" "Preferably outside," she snapped. "You're blocking traffic." The lobby was almost deserted, classic Sharon logic. I sat on a marble bench, sipping coffee, watching her micromanage the elevator buttons. She truly believed she was saving the company, a corporate crusader. Defending the intern from harm in life, she was set to discover hierarchy, humility, and why you shouldn't presume someone in a hoodie can't sign your paycheck. Mr. Carter showed up, hurried, confused, as Sharon pointed him out, pointing at me theatrically. "That man says he's in operations but doesn't have clearance." Mr. Carter blinks, then spots me. Recognition alarm, panic, a bead of sweat on his brow. "Sharon," he said slowly, "that's Mr. Ellis, your boss's boss." Silence. You could hear the buzz of the lobby's vending machine. Sharon's jaw fell, her clipboard slipping perilously. Her world shattering in 3 seconds. "Wait," what she stammered. Mr. Carter nodded, ill at ease. "He's the regional director, fresh from 6 weeks abroad. He signs off our budgets." Sharon looked as if her brain had crashed mid-update. I stood shrugging off my hoodie. "You wanted my ID," I said softly, walking past her. "I'll produce it in the boardroom. You'll want to sit for that presentation." I walked out the gate she'd aggressively defended, not with a badge but with force she hadn't expected as the glass door shut. I glanced behind. Sharon remained immobile, headset, crackle, clipboard, shaking. That was just the tip. She believed she'd reached the pinnacle of front desk regality, but she declared war on someone who ranked above her with receipts, reports, and a strategy. I wasn't finished witnessing the spectacle by lunchtime. The narrative went viral. Whispers, messages under tables. The clipboard queen attempted to boot out the regional director. My return was supposed to be low-key following weeks of international meetings, but thanks to Sharon, I'd entered a welcome-back circus. I settled. Into my temporary second-floor office, my usual space was rented out. Passing employees who smiled nervously, some giving thumbs-ups when Sharon wasn't looking, one whispered legend. I chuckled, the irony wasn't lost. The person causing so much stress had exposed herself by taking a swing at the one whose silence had shielded her. By afternoon, stories poured in. Lydia from accounting dropped by pretending to deliver files, but lingered to say she reported me to HR for wearing a sleeveless top, said it was distracting. James from it confessed Sharon once locked him out of his system for not being on her daily access list. Despite him being the system's admin, tales kept coming. Misplaced paperwork, ignored emails. People turned away for being 5 minutes late. Sharon had been waging a reign of terror for months, creating a culture of fear. She'd landed the front desk job as a temporary rotation in a cross-training initiative meant to rotate every 2 weeks. But Sharon never left. She'd battled to establish it as her permanent domain, snuggling up to the former HR manager who'd quit due to personal stress. Shortly after it snapped, Sharon had discovered the ideal place to nest her power. Prominent enough to feel important, beneath enough to escape scrutiny. The most revealing moment was during the break room. I heard her spit at a junior designer. "Tina, next time. Dress like you want to be here." Her tone venomous. Tina apologized and ran away. Sharon didn't notice me around the bend, fiddling with her headset for the next victim on her list. I pulled the internal access reports, dozens of them, flagged for minor things, overwhelmingly cheerful hellos, munching an apple too boisterously in her head. She was practicing discipline, the self-elected protector of the company's soul while I was away. She'd sent welcome protocol memo, not via HR, but herself outlining her personal expectations. Where to position herself, how to talk, always smile at front desk. It's part of your unspoken review. She'd created a mythology about her job unchecked. I could have called her out, called her in, laid out the proof. But this wasn't about shaming Sharon. It was about demonstrating what happens when toxic behavior furs. I needed her to reveal herself. I went to HR, meeting Samantha, the new head, who'd received complaints about Sharon but nothing tangible. I asked her to stall on official business. Samantha trusted me, relieved someone higher up cared. I reassured her it wouldn't take long. The next morning, Sharon struck again, halting the new regional training manager, Mr. Daniels, on his first day, complaining his appointment wasn't on her master schedule. She made him wait 30 minutes in the lobby until I welcomed him myself. His face lit up with gratitude. Sharon's twitched like a glitching robot. She mumbled about protocol. I nodded. "I know exactly what you're doing." The fear was cracking. Stories weren't whispered anymore. They were emailed, laughed about at lunch. People who once avoided the front desk now walked past like survivors of a bad cult. Sharon's kingdom was crumbling. She just didn't see how fast I planned something theatrical. Not cruel, but fitting. Sharon made everything a performance, controlling who walked where, who got access. I'd give her an audience. I created a calendar event, Q2 departmental operations audit, boring, large enough to raise suspicions, but not so large that it would arouse suspicion, big enough to attract major players. Department heads, HR regional managers who'd be confronted by Sharon's methods. The meeting was scheduled for Thursday 9 a.m. in the executive boardroom, with a note, "Please report to the front desk." I knew she'd take the bait Wednesday. Sharon accessed the invitation with her unauthorized admin privileges, highlighting names, whispering, "The meeting was unauthorized." Thursday morning, I got there early to observe. The lobby was charged. Sharon stood at her desk like a border guard, clipboard, ready, headset on. She stopped Victor from marketing, not cleared for the boardroom. He protested, "I'm on the list." She shook her head. "This meeting wasn't approved by upper administration. I'm restricting access until I confirm authorization, advised by who he asked." Internal oversight? She dodged. Samantha walked in, greeting her calmly. "Thanks for holding the fort, Sharon. I'll take it from here." Sharon hesitated but backed off. More attendees arrived. She blocked 3 department heads, invalidated the assistant HR manager's clearance, redirected everyone to a non-existent waiting area, repeating, "I'm following protocol." People texted me, "You seeing this?" At 8:58 a.m., I entered the lobby. Sharon's face contorted into forced politeness. "Mr. Ellis," she said with forced cheer, "I wasn't expecting you'd be coming." That's because I made it. I said. She blinked, but it's not approved. It doesn't require your approval. I interrupted. Everyone here is coming with me. She opened her mouth, but I turned to the crowd, 20 people, and said, let's go. We went by her desk through the elevators to the boardroom. The room buzzed with tension. Nobody knew what was about to happen, but they felt it. I began. Many of you have felt uncomfortable, unwelcome, or unsafe at the front desk. The changes today. I brought forward the evidence, emails, logs, statements, a recording of Sharon yelling, and in turn for slow badge scanning, her nonverbal strike system. Samantha stepped up, effective immediately. An investigation begins into front desk conduct violations. All concerns will be confidential. Nods, relief, some anger. Not at me, but at their own silence. Back downstairs. Sharon sat oblivious, clutching her clipboard. She didn't know her script was over. My inbox exploded, not with complaints, but confirmations. Employees who'd stayed quiet for months shared stories, screenshots, accounts of Sharon's harassment, abuse, of access manipulation, disregard for others. Meanwhile, Sharon added a laminated sign, please respect the reception process, with clip art of a smiley face, shaking hands with a clock. No one asked what it meant. Her glares met defiance. Her fake smile flickered. She noticed the shift, but didn't grasp why. By Thursday, HR had enough for a formal review. Samantha brought a file, 16 employees' incidents, from discrimination to telling a grieving employee. Grief isn't an excuse for sloppiness. Sharon had granted herself elevated clearance without sanction, a suspendable infraction. But I sought a memorable conclusion Friday during the monthly all-hands gathering. Following team announcements, I addressed, let's discuss culture. Not the one on walls, but the one that is felt passing the front desk, seeking assistance. Speaking up for months, our front desk was run under fear. Not function. Employees were monitored, judged, humiliated by someone who made a temporary position an impermeable fortress that concludes today. Samantha read the proclamation. Sharon was on administrative leave pending investigation for abuse of authority. Unauthorized access and conduct violations. A full audit would follow. Murmurs turned to applause, slow, then loud. Not for humiliation, but for being heard. The company chose action over silence. Samantha and Mr. Carter informed Sharon downstairs, giving her documents. Taking her credentials, she argued, claimed misunderstanding, but had no allies left. Mr. Carter. Her supervisor didn't flinch. He'd been too passive before, but not now. Sharon left with her clipboard. The lobby was mysteriously still. No headset, gossip, no passive-aggressive remarks, only peace. That afternoon, people walked with less weight. The coffee line moved quicker. No one hung out at elevators with their hands to phone, pretending the front desk rotation was back Monday. Tina, once publicly chastised by Sharon, volunteered, putting out a bowl of mince, greeting with a shy but genuine smile. People greeted her in turn. Something had changed, not only policy but vibe. People felt leadership as action, allowing them to rise. I unzipped my travel bag, filled freshly poured coffee, and stood before my window. Looking out over the lobby, Sharon was vanished, but her lesson remained. Weeks later, the mood relaxed, no tension. Just normally, the receptionist position rotated, each individual bringing warmth. Laughter returned, banter flowed. Here's audit verified. Sharon made up processes, falsely logged, conduct manipulated access, an updated operations memo, spelled out roles, wiping her rank employees. Emailed thankfulness, not for a discharge, but for accountability. Hassan from finance penned, I was going to quit. I thought this company didn't care about people like me. I've changed my mind. Thank you, that made it worth it. A month later, LinkedIn pinged Sharon, new role, customer relations manager at PowerFit Gyms. I laughed, forwarding it to Samantha. Poetic justice wears spandex. A partner later mentioned his brother managed a PowerFit location. Sharon was on probation, making staff cry, likely to be let go. I smiled. That wasn't my fight. Sharon's tale became a corporate legend, a cautionary story. Don't be a Sharon, but the spotlight wasn't on her failure. It was the change. People felt safer. Trusted leadership voiced up. I began listening. Our Fridays, 1 hour open to any employee, to discuss, no filters. It took off. People didn't want silence anymore. I never spoke with Sharon again. She disappeared as loudly as she'd entered, leaving an empty seat and a lesson. One day I noticed Tina at the front desk, now assured greeting warmly. "You've made this space human again," I said. She smiled. "People say hi now." They stopped to chat. I nodded. That's how it's supposed to be. I didn't reply when she asked about Sharon, but thought somewhere, still holding a clipboard. Finally called to account that night, I posted a video on our internal site, Simple at my desk. Sometimes the biggest upsets come from the tiniest spaces. The most frightful person's not making grand choices, but standing between you and the door. We repair that together, and we'll continue to repair what's next. Culture is how we treat one another when we believe no one is watching. I ended, if someone requests your ID with too much attitude, remember, you never know who's signing the paycheck. The video received record views. The story that started out with a request for ID ended with a renewed identity, one that belonged to everyone, not only gatekeepers. The company discovered its voice, and it did not sound like Sharon. It sounded like us.